So the reading for this week was about human performance improvement, specifically in K through 12 education. What recommendations do I have for K through 12 educators after this reading? So I came up with 4. This is just an overview of some of them. The first one is to cultivate buy-in from teachers. In my experience in education, getting teachers to buy in is important for any kind of initiative that you have in a school setting. So using teachers as a resource in decision making would be really helpful for this, and meeting with them individually and small groups to answer questions and have a discussion. To me, this is always more effective than receiving a PowerPoint presentation in mass, so I think this would be a good strategy. Secondly, look for similar organizations that have addressed similar issues. In K through 12, this could look like a school within the same county of a similar size and organizational structure. My third recommendation is to treat workers with dignity. I think Gilbert, in his article, Human Performance Technology, Further Reflections on Human Competence, had some really good insights about this. And finally, obviously, invest in instructional design. So let me get into a little more detail about each of these. The evidence that I found for cultivating buy-in from teachers really comes down to that case study outlined in Arrington's article. So there were 2 educators in that case study, and one of them was in leadership and administration. I believe she was an instructional coach, and the other one was a teacher. And only a teacher. So the one who was only a teacher had to really sell other teachers on HPI, and she gained the trust of her coworkers by meeting with them one-on-one and communicating the HPI plan to them. Arrington concluded that teachers do not have to have a bunch of experience to implement HPI. They don't have to be 20-year teaching veterans, but they should be familiar with the organization and procedures of the school if we're using the corporate setting as analogous to K-12. So this was a finding from a corporate setting, but we posit that HPI can be successfully applied by HPI novices given that the person is an expert within their organization or has strong knowledge surrounding the problem context. So drawing that further conclusion, given that those who implement HPI should be familiar with the organization, teachers really are the best resource because they're so familiar with the curriculum that they have to teach. In the corporate world, organizational outsiders implementing HPI, I'm guessing this might look like external contractors, conflated organizational and environmental factors, whereas teachers, I think it's pretty unlikely would have that problem. Getting into comparison. So my school where I teach is Page Middle School on the left here. And our rival school, I guess you could say sister school, is Brentwood. And I thought it was really interesting when I looked up these demographics. I'd always heard that we're very similar, and my principal always wants us to beat them in data for various things. But when I looked at the demographics, I was surprised by how similar we really are with our size, with our test scores, with our demographics. So this, I think, is really helpful for measuring performance at our school because when we look at ELA, when we look at math, when we look at use of certain software, it's really helpful for understanding different initiatives. And we even have teachers kind of go back and forth. We have a lot of teachers at Page that taught at Brentwood. We have some teachers who left Page to teach at Brentwood. So we kind of have this ready reference point that's really helpful. Treat workers with dignity. I loved Gilbert's article. I studied management, and it's rare that I come across articles that are more management-based that are still very worker-friendly, and I felt that Gilbert's article was very well-balanced, so I really appreciated a lot of his suggestions. So he posited that the principal opportunities to excellent performance are really in the behavioral environment, with better incentives, clearer data, and smarter training. So the incentives isn't just a blanket stipend or a blanket bonus like the governor of Tennessee gave us recently, but it's specifically Gilbert recommends paying people for high performance. So recognizing high performing employees. I like how he goes into detail about how high performing employees subsidize all other employees. So I thought that was a good recommendation. Secondly, information. Give people the information they need to do a good job and tell them when they've done it. So this is something that teachers also are encouraged to do for our students. So I think receiving that same kind of support would be really helpful. And finally, instructional design, which brings us to the last one, which is investing in instructional design. This statistic really floored me that less than 1% of money spent on training is spent on instructional design, which is the science of how people learn and how information should be presented. And the incentives are for instructors to make the training as long as possible, which I am not 100% sure how true that is, but it definitely feels that way in professional development. So that was a good point from Gilbert. And too much information obscures meaningful information. This is something that I always remind myself as a teacher when presenting information to students, and I think that it's something that would be really important in instructional design as well. And finally, how information is delivered and how workers learn are important. I liked this point that he made, that if we put all of our trainees in the Taj Mahal with interactive videos and Oscar winners as instructors, which is just kind of absurd, it would have little effect on our poor training designs. Teach dumb things in great ways, and they are still dumb things. Thank you.